Thanks for listening to episode 227 of the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the imagination of Clive Barker. In this episode, Jose and Ryan are joined by Hellraiser enthusiasts and experts Danny Stewart, Hellraiser Judgement's Paul T. Taylor, Catalina Querida, and Ed Martinez to talk about the news of the David S. Goyer Hellraiser Remake. We also discuss Ann Bobby's new podcast blog crowdfunding, Danny's Hellraiser III project, and a Clive Barker book raffle from Dark Regions Press, as well as giving an update on the end of round 5 of the Duels of Blood and the beginning of the final round. So you won't want to miss this panel of Hellraiser experts giving their 2 cents, and so stick around. And also in the meantime, this episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination shop is dedicated to benefiting the Arts and Medicine program at Texas Children's Cancer Center. Up to 50% of the proceeds will support the program, where artist Don Bertram volunteers monthly. There's a new news feature video that shows Don working with the kids at Texas Children's Cancer Center and his artwork. Click on the side banner at www.clivebarkercast.com to find links to videos and his Etsy shop, where you can buy his prints, books, and support this wonderful program. All right, well, welcome. This is episode 227 of the Clive Barker Podcast, and I'm Ryan.
And I'm Joe.
And we're going to get into a huge discussion on this news about the new Hellraiser remake written by David S. Goyer.
It seems like this is going to be done by Spyglass Media Group, and I made an article about it when it came out last Tuesday or something, so go check that out. It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got Paul T. Taylor, who played Pinhead in Judgement. We got Catalina Querida, who's from Little Spark Films, who have done a lot of like trailers for Pyramid Gallery. They've done a lot of stuff, for Trauma, and also they're working on The Torturer with Paul T. Taylor, a short based on Paul Kane's short story, The Torturer. Yeah. And then we also had Danny Stewart. He's working on a making of Hellraiser III, War is Hell. So we got lots of people. And Ed Martinez, usually he's been with us a few times, and he's one of our most close followers, and he listens to our podcast, and he sends us messages all the time. And it's always great to have him back in the show. Yeah. So, it was a cool discussion. How long was that? It took like over an hour.
Yeah, like an hour and a half. And that'll be coming up in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So, and what have you been up to lately?
Well, I've been paying attention to this talk of the Hellraiser reboot, and I've been looking at David S. Goyer's credentials and movies that he's done that we've seen, like the Blade movies and stuff like that. So and of course the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan. Right. And he's working on an adaptation of Foundation, the Isaac Asimov trilogy of books for Apple TV. So that's all exciting stuff.
Because I think Apple is starting their own original content stuff for people to subscribe to.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about buying a new computer so I can actually go back to editing more episodes for the podcast. And make some more content, because my computer is like 9 years old at this point, and it's getting a little old and kind of chugs away at a lot of stuff. So it's been hard to do anything meaningful in terms of audio or video editing. But hopefully in the next couple of months I'll be getting like one of those big tower machines, and that's going to be a little cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I recently finally got, I don't know why it took me this long, because we've had it for 2 years, I think, but the Scarlet Box, I finally just finished watching Hellraiser 3, so now I get to put it on my shelf instead of in my to-watch pile. So I thought that that particular transfer of Hellraiser 3 looked really good. Have you watched that yet?
Yeah, it looks so great, and the first and second one. Is that a 2K transfer that Arrow did?
Yeah, and it looks grainy, but maybe just because it's preserving the original film grain.
Yes, which so many times they throw filters at it and like
Yeah.
make everyone look smooth, and it's like those filters, like the beauty filter on your iPhone camera. Sometimes if
Right.
you make it too high, your face becomes kind of weird. You turn into like a minion.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you look blurry and yeah.
yeah,
And the weren't previous transfers of Hellraiser 3 like taken off of a VHS master or some crazy crap like that? Like
I
there
think
was something about that, like DVDs were just horrible of Hellraiser 3 in the past.
I know that they edited the editing bay for Hellraiser 3 was this weird VCR system, a bank of VCRs where you would hear like the Anthony Hickox, the director of the movie, said he was in the editing bay, and this was like some sort of editing bay that someone said, "Hey, this is my new method for editing films," and it was a bay of like. I don't know if it was Betamax or VCRs or whatever, but he said once you cut two scenes together, you would hear one VCR clunk in, and then the other one would clunk in to continue, and it was like kind of weird. So I think most of the transfers we had were probably Laserdisc transfers so far.
Oh yeah.
And now we have the 2K Arrow transfer, so that's great.
Yeah. Well, we are into the Duels of Blood round 5 just finished up, and round 5 is the final four. We had Rachel versus Babette, and in that one, Rachel won.
Yeah. No surprise there, even though it's a weird pairing. It's mother and daughter facing against each other, and I guess I'm surprised. I thought Babette was going to be more popular. But no, Rachel kind of went ahead and took it for 70% of the votes.
Yeah. And then go ahead.
So she's going to be in the final two.
Yes, yeah. And then we've got Onaka versus Narcisse. And I thought, and I think we had one, we have, of course, Lori is the huge Simon Bamford fan, and I think she put it over the edge. Otherwise, we might not have known how that would have turned out. I think they're both great characters.
Right. You had this change to instead of voting every 5 minutes, you had to vote every 12 hours.
Yeah.
And even then, we had lots of votes on this one. We had 109 votes, whereas before we would go to the several hundreds or maybe even thousands sometimes in the round. But this time, I'm pretty sure Lori from Simon Bamford fans was probably voting twice a day. Good job. You got Onaka to win, and now we're going to have Onaka versus Rachel in the final round.
Yep, and that will be going up on Sunday morning at the same time as this episode airs. You can head over to duelsofblood.com and start voting on Rachel versus Onaka.
And if you have any ideas for any future, Volume 5 of Duels of Blood, what characters would you like to see? Would you like us to go back into the books? Would you like us to go back into some other movies? Would you like us to go into the books of blood?
When we recently discussed Aberrat and I was typing out the names of all of the characters, I started to think, man, there's a lot of characters. And then I thought, we could actually do a Duels of Blood from Aberrat.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea, too. Yeah, absolutely. Let's put that on the table.
Yeah.
If anybody has any other ideas, though, it's always nice to have feedback from our listeners. So just drop us a line and put a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and share our posts on your Facebook.
Yeah. And then so now we'll go into breaking news from the Reef. We've got Dark Regions Press, who has previously published some books of Clive's. They are having an auction with $1,000 worth of prizes. One of the prizes is an autographed Stealth Press Books of Blood, which there can't be too many of those left at this point. I mean, that was like how long ago was that was printed? It's like at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. You're talking the one with the white dust jacket cover with the picture taken by Clive.
And we heard a funny story about that company Stealth Press went out of business right when they printed those, and that they had just dumped, instead of destroying them, they just dumped Clive Barker's office. Seraphim said, bring those to us instead. And so they just dumped a pallet of these books right in the street in front of Clive Barker's house.
Wow.
Blocked traffic, and they had to run out and get all these books.
Yeah, these books were published back in 2002, so it's been 17 years since they've been out. Wow. And they're getting more and more rare by the day, so that's always nice to have one of these show up. And I think it's It's not the regular edition. You're talking about the regular edition. This one is
This
the
one is a
slipcased
tray case, yeah.
slipcased hardcover, signed and numbered. So there can't be too many of those. I don't know exactly how many they did, but I would say probably in the dozens.
That one says this is numbered 423.
Oh, okay. So probably 500, I would say. Mm-hmm. That's the first prize. The second prize is a Sacrament by Clive Barker, deluxe lettered tray-cased hardcover.
Wow.
So this is one of their more recent books, isn't it, that they recently published? And third prize is Sacrament by Clive Barker, signed numbered hardcover. So it's not a tray case, it's just numbered.
Yeah.
And the fourth and fifth are the Midnight Meat Train Special. I got to say this because I find this funny. This one is such a long title. The Midnight Meat Train Special Definitive Edition Trade Hardcover. Yeah. Which is it's a great thing. You have like pages of the script and Clive Barker's original concept art for the City Fathers and the Butcher and all that stuff. So it's a great book to have. So yeah, go in there and how do you enter the raffle?
That's what I was just looking at too. I don't understand how much the raffle costs.
Okay, I think you have to shop at their store, and then it says terms: limit one entry and one prize per customer.
Okay.
So yeah, we're going to put a link to that anyway, so people can go there and check it out and see if there's any other books that they're interested in, because the Dark Regions definitely brings the value books to the collectors. It's these are truly amazing books to have, even though they're kind of expensive, but some people see it as an investment.
Well, and if you could get them for the cost of a raffle ticket, that would be awesome. Yeah. And Ann Bobby, so we've been kind of keeping in touch with her and following her ever since she first came on our podcast, right at the very beginning, right when we were still in the single digits. And
right, yeah.
So she has started a GoFundMe to run a media podcast. So it's called the Media Barista, and it's all about political goings on. And she's really savvy. She's really good at kind of cutting through the what news is about and getting through the opinions and to see what the real story is.
Yeah, she does a lot of commenting on her own page and about the news of the day, especially political news and news that affects everybody's lives in this country. And she's been called the 60 Minutes of Facebook. So I think, the reaction that people have at her posts on Facebook made her think that, hey, maybe this is something I should pursue. Yeah. And people will be interested in hearing my opinion and staying informed. So, yeah, she's got a GoFundMe, the Media Barista Podcast.
And and news blog, too, I think.
Yeah, and it's an interesting idea that she has for the podcast because she breaks it down in 3 different tiers of episodes. And, of course, Ann Bobby, she's been in movies like Beautiful Girls, Clive Barker's Nightbreed, in television shows like Mad About You, games like BioShock and Red Dead Redemption. Yeah. So she's been all around. She's done off-Broadway, theater and musicals.
She was in Cop Rock, and she was also in Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise.
Exactly. And she's an award-nominated screenwriter, playwright, editor, author, amateur historian, and the way she describes herself as very, very curious person. So, you could listen to her episodes if you help her start this podcast, and she would be doing 3 tiers of episodes. That would be the Media Barista to go, Monday through Friday, flagship podcast episode, 15 minutes of stories relevant to the day. She would have the double shot, which would be an hour-long weekend wrap-up of the biggest stories of the week. Oh. And then she would do the Media Barista Refill podcast. So this would be, a weeknight primetime podcast of the day's developed stories. So in a sense, we kind of did something similar. We did have like news from the Reef, and we started making news episodes, and then more, theme episodes like, oh, we're going to discuss this book. And then we sometimes alternate with episodes of our own news. So it is an interesting way to kind of separate things that don't go together, and then all of a sudden just also be able to keep people informed with news and our opinion on things. So, go check her out. She just launched this a while ago. Yeah. And she is doing it from Brooklyn, New York. It was created 2 days ago, and she already has $445 out of a $10,000 goal.
Yeah.
And that's just from 10 people in 2 days. So.
Oh, it looks like Nicholas Vince donated, and Laurie Bichet and Simon Bamford. Bunch of people. There's a list of contributors down the side of people that we know, which is really cool.
Absolutely. So go to the GoFundMe.com, and we're going to put a link in the show notes, and you can help Ann Bobby launch the Media Barista podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we also have, and we're going to be talking about this quite a bit in our upcoming chat here about the Hellraiser remake, but Danny Stewart's Hellraiser 3 book project, he did an interview with visual effects line producer from Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and
right.
And so he gave us a little video, a little edited video clip from that we'll link to, and we'll have a blog post and a link to that.
Absolutely, and we talk about that, like you said, in the next segment where we talk with all our guests. And you can hear all the other projects that he's been connected with. And you may know him as the Gimp in
right.
Dark Ditty's The Offer.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. He's also been in other movies as an extra. I think he was in one Love and Prejudice and Zombies or something like that. He was an extra there in that movie too as well. Cool. And he was a producer in Leviathan, the documentary. So it's always nice to have Danny. He always sends us the best links. Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. With that being said, let's jump right into our group chat with about David S. Goyer's potential Hellraiser reboot, where that included Danny Stewart, Paul T. Taylor, Hellraiser Judgment's Pinhead, Catalina Querida, and Ed Martinez.
We got Ed Martinez, which was the last guy we added. He used to be the co-creator and author of Cenobium, which was for a long time the main Hellraiser fanzine or magazine for fans. So he's also been in the industry, in the effects industry and movie industry for a long time, and so he's our Hellraiser expert here as well. So. Yeah, and then we have Danny Stewart, who I was just telling Paul. Danny, you're working on a book for Hellraiser 3 called War is Hell.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, the making of Hellraiser 3. And you started interviewing some line producers and visual effects artists for that as well, right?
Yeah, and I should be interviewing or have an interview from Pete Atkins this week.
Oh, that's great. That's brilliant, yeah. And then we got, of course, Paul T. Taylor, who played, Pinhead in Judgment, which was a great, one of the best sequels to come out lately of Hellraiser.
Thanks.
And Hi, Catalina.
Paul. Hi.
Hello.
And we have Catalina Querida, which you're from Little Spark Films. You were part of the team that joined with us at Texas Frightmare Weekend last year, and you guys helped us make that brilliant interview with all the Cenobite actors and Paul.
That was fun.
Yeah, and now you guys are working on The Torturer with Paul T. Taylor. Joe Manco's going to direct that, and you guys are still, working on pre-production for the film, right?
And based on Paul Kane's short story, and Paul Kane is also a Hellraiser expert.
Okay,
Big expert.
Yep. The big one.
Forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. So, Ryan, what do you want to do this? You want to start with an introduction and then move into the announcement that was done by Spyglass about the new Hellraiser, and then we can start asking people what they think about it.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. I don't know if we've had this many people on Skype before, so it's sort of a test. Well, hopefully the internet can hold up. But welcome to episode 227, and in this part of this episode, we're going to be discussing the recent news that was announced that David S. Goyer is going to be writing a Hellraiser. He called it a reimagining, right?
Yeah.
So like he'll take the original short story or movie and remake it.
Right.
The way I understood
reconfiguration.
Yeah. So in a quick recap, Gary Barber, who is the MGM chief, and Spyglass Media Group announced that they're going to have a loyal yet evolved reimagining of the original film, and that they're going to have David S. Goyer to write and produce the movie. So David S. Goyer, of course, has been involved in writing scripts like Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight trilogy. He also co-wrote Dark City, which I think it has some kind of Cenobite connection there, which we will kind of explore in the conversation. The Strangers, yeah. And he also wrote the Blade trilogy of films as well. And he's been involved in a bunch of other things like comic books.
He wrote the sequel to The Crow also.
Yeah, City of Angels, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that movie. It's got Iggy Pop in there. So today we're joined by Ed Martinez, who you already heard on the episode before. Say hi, Ed.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see or almost see everybody.
Yeah. And we got Danny Stewart, who was a producer in the Leviathan documentary and now is working on a making of Hellraiser III, War is Hell. Hi, Danny.
Hey, hello, everyone.
And we got Catalina Querida from Little Spark Films.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have Paul T. Taylor, who was Pinhead in Hellraiser Judgement. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking.
So, guys, I guess I'll start with Ed. Ed, what do you think about this new announcement? Because you've been keeping tabs on the Hellraiser news that have come out over the last year or two, and we've been chatting about it. And you covered the Hellraiser fandom longer than we ever did at this podcast, and we've been doing this for 7 years. And you also worked in the industry with effects and movies. So what's your take on this David S. Goyer announcement?
Well, you know how everything like this stuff you have to take with a grain of salt, because they make an announcement like this and sometimes you don't hear anything more about it for a really long time, and then nothing happens, So I'm really hoping, and I know, me and you talked about it a little bit, about getting in touch with Clive's people or Clive himself and saying, what's going on? It's like, can you tell us, what's have they been in contact with you, or are you involved? What's the deal, And so that's where I go first, is like, what's going on with Clive?
Yeah. Good point, because this is the third time now, right? We had one in 2006, I think it was, or 2007 that was going to happen, and then again in 2014. And
right,
both of those eventually both of those were they switched to doing sequels instead.
Oh, yeah. I remember this movie has been in development hell pretty much since 2006. And I remember Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Milton were going to write the script back in 2008. And then they passed it on to Pascal Laugier, who directed Martyrs. And Clive was being the producer of that. And then, 2009, Clive, had a treatment made. And, then it was Todd Farmer and Patrick Lussier who were going to be taking over the project in 2010. So this has been – they've been trying hard to come up with an idea to reboot –
for a long time.
Yeah, to reboot the Hellraiser franchise. And, so I've noticed that they've been actually keeping up with this IMDb page for the new Hellraiser movie, because I saw that they announced David Goyer was going to be writing and producing. And then I went to the page that was listed on his own IMDb profile, and I saw, hey, this links to the same old Hellraiser reboot page that's existed here for a while. And I noticed recently the synopsis that was there was still an old synopsis about Kirsty meeting someone in a family meeting or whatever, and then it was going to be different. But I went there today to look up that synopsis, and they already changed it. So they're updating the page. So
interesting.
That's a good signal. Now it just says reboot of the 1987 horror film about an evil creature who is summoned from another dimension.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Funny, because that's not what it's about. But oh well. I mean,
right.
You know what I mean? It's not about Pinhead, but
It is about Pinhead, and that's a great segue to asking you, Paul. Yeah, because Gary Barber from MGM said that Clive and I go back more than 30 years together. For generations, his brilliantly twisted and imaginative Hellraiser haunted the minds of moviegoers with its searing imagery of Pinhead.
Yeah,
so,
and where is that from?
5 minutes of Pinhead.
Yeah, that's true.
What are you reading from exactly?
I'm reading from the press release that was put out by Spyglass Media Group. and
Okay.
that was from Gary Barber, who's an MGM executive. So it seems like you can't disassociate Pinhead from Hellraiser, right? So at this point, an almost throwaway character at the time. They didn't expect him to get this big, but
Yeah,
it seems
lead
like
Cenobite.
exactly
Yeah.
right. So, Paul, you've been tweeting a lot on your page and on
Desperate.
Facebook. You have like a hashtag Pinhead with a purpose. I intend to be on the big screen as the hashtag Cenobite with a heart of cold. I love that part. The heart of cold. David S. Goyer, cast me, Paul for Pinhead. So,
Hashtag
The
Paul for
campaign has
Pinhead.
begun.
yes.
Well,
yes.
what can I do? I'm doing what I can do. There was a time when it seemed like I was destined to do at least one more, but that was, then the name Weinstein reared its ugly head, and all of that sort of tumbled down. So
They Weinsteined you.
they want hashtag me too. Seriously. So I mean, it's an important movement. Don't get me wrong. With anything I say, I know it's an important movement, but I things have changed, and so nothing is promised ever, and I'm just taking it. If the opportunity is there for me to pursue, then I'm going to pursue it. I kind of wish I knew more so that I could either stop or continue. But
Well, Paul,
right
I
now,
can guarantee you they know about Gary's film and your film, and I'm
Oh, yeah.
sure they've seen it,
yeah. The thing that in reading these articles, well, actually, it's one that just keeps. I guess it's basically the same information. The reimagining of Pinhead, my mind just goes, wow, female Pinhead, wow, young,
Yeah.
beautiful Pinhead
Yeah,
with,
exactly.
with high willowy
Alien
voice.
Pinhead
They
with
could do
4 arms.
They could do anything. They could do anything, So
Yeah.
I'm just, there are vestiges of hope for me, but whatever. I do think this is real, and the reason I think that, not only because of what you just said about the IMDb page, but I had a private conversation with Gary Tunnicliffe, and
Do tell.
well, I'm not going to say too much, but basically what I get from it is that he thinks this is real, and that he's done with Hellraiser, and that it's not going to be what he had perhaps hoped it was going to be, where he would get to maybe do another one. And a lot of people out there who are fans wanted a direct sequel to Judgment, and of course me included. That's not going to happen. We know that.
Has he said anything about? Have they talked to him, or has he talked to them? Or?
No, he is not. Well, as far as I know, he hasn't. I don't know. I can't speak for him. But it just seems in our conversation, it was simply texting that he's sure
aware of this and
that
all that.
he's not going to be notified, and that they are moving on. And there was a time, and he's spoken about this, when Judgment came out, and all the folks at Dimension who were in Bob Weinstein's office were like, "We're going to take care of you, mate. You'll be doing, you'll be there." And things had been said to me on the set by the on-set producer, Mike Leahy, who had said, "Pretty sure if you want this gig, it's yours." Things like that, which gave me hope, of course. And I was like, whoa, I'm the new Pinhead and all this. But then with the Weinstein thing and the Me Too and all of it sort of dissolving, I've had a long time to get over it. And the fact that I may never be Pinhead again.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of taking it with a grain of salt. And if it happens, great. I'm moving on. I've moved on. I'm getting more, I have a higher profile now, and I'm very grateful for that. So I'm doing what I can. I just don't want to make a fool of myself. So that's basically.
No, it's totally understandable.
Yeah.
And if they don't know that you want it, they're going to give it to you.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, and just to kind of make your pitch here, I was wondering, reimagining is a word that opens possibilities, and
Right.
what do you think you could bring to the role of Pinhead that we haven't seen before?
Well, I think that actually you have seen some wonderful, dramatic, almost Shakespearean work from Doug Bradley. I think I have that as well. But in addition to that, I've got a lightness to my own personality that that is, in my mind, can be related to sort of a sick perversion and a delight, a sexual pleasure. I always thought that, I mean, if the script had been different for Judgment, I would have wanted to bring this to it, but I've always thought that part of the joy of being the lead Cenobite would be that all these piercings are connected. I mean, this is a story about sadomasochism and the delight of that and how good it feels all the time. Always sort of edging, always on the verge of orgasm. I think that sort of constant energy going through a Cenobite's body, and maybe it's there. Maybe it's so subtle in other Cenobites' performances that you don't really see it, or maybe they just have too much makeup on their faces. But it just seems like that is part of it. And that's been, that went away a long time ago, in the 30 plus years of Hellraiser. It went away when, Pinhead became a slasher, and it was all about punishment instead of about, and about murder, basically, instead of about the perversion of the flesh, the perversion, the sadomasochism, the extremes. How far can you take it? I think that's so worth exploring, because that's what it's all about. And there's a beautiful creature in Pinhead. Let's say lead Cenobite. There's a beautiful creature in lead Cenobite. There's this gorgeous, the original description.
The Hell Priest.
The jewel pins, and there's just such a beauty there that, I don't know, and I think that comes from a delight and a joy that I'm not sure that we've seen much of in other incarnations. At the same time, if that's not called for, then it shouldn't be there. I mean, if the script doesn't call for it, then...
Yeah, it's all about the script.
It is all about the script. I just think that would be a delightful thing to explore, just because it can still be just as menacing, just as dangerous, because obviously we're going to rip you apart, and you asked for it, and we're just doing our jobs. So. Right.
I mean, in Judgment, if I can just say this, I think that your depiction of Pinhead, or the Hell Priest, because he doesn't like being called Pinhead.
Well, it's true. It's shorthand.
Your depiction of the Hell Priest,
the Black Pope.
Exactly. The Black Pope, right, Ed? I think you capture that kind of subdued energy, that focus that he has, and that transgressive nature when he, stands up to an angel and basically tells the angel, hey, this is my territory. You shouldn't be here, and he faces up to, he even chains an angel at the end. Spoilers, but
if I haven't seen the movie by now, come on.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, unfortunately, you guys, just so you all know, I'm blind, so unfortunately, I haven't seen it.
Right.
You listen to it though.
Yes.
Right,
some really good dialogue.
All the commentary tracks and everything.
So some really good dialogue at the end there, where that's something we've never seen before.
Beautiful dialogue. Beautifully written dialogue. I was real happy with that.
And we had never seen an angel in a Hellraiser movie before, so that was something we hadn't seen. So I mean, there's always these possibilities.
Scarlet Gospels.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Yeah. So a little more information on this is that in terms of producing, these are probably the money people, the people that probably you should be aiming for contacting are the Spyglass will finance and develop the picture for worldwide theatrical distribution, which is pretty exciting here, I guess, because when was the last time we had a worldwide theatrically distributed Hellraiser, right? I mean,
or any Hellraiser in a movie theater.
Right.
Yeah. And I want to put in a plug here for José's blog post that he did about this story, because lots of people reported this, but as far as I've seen, yours is the only one that connected the dots on why Gary Barber and Spyglass have any kind of rights to Hellraiser.
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The connection to Dimension and Miramax.
Yeah. So the Spyglass Media Group was launched by Gary Barber, who was a former MGM chief. And then Warner Brothers invested an equity stake with Spyglass a couple of weeks ago in April. And then turns out another one of Spyglass's investors is Lantern Entertainment. And that gives Spyglass access to the Weinstein Company library of films. So that's your connection to the Hellraiser franchise. And it's going to be produced. Yeah, according to what they said was, so Goyer is going to produce along with Keith Levine under the Phantom 4 banner. Chris Stone, Vice President, Development and Production for Spyglass, will oversee the project. So it seems like, the pieces are falling together for pre-production. So that's pretty exciting.
Yes.
And
Stay
Catalina,
tuned.
yeah. And hashtag Paul for Pinhead.
Well, that's what I say.
So let me ask all of you guys, what are your thoughts on, like, in other words, when Hellraiser first came out, it was so long ago, 30 something years now. And, things were different. The world was different. I mean, what Paul was talking about, sadomasochism and stuff like that. I mean, today, can you make a hard R film with sadomasochism and sexuality and all this stuff? What's all your thoughts on this?
I would love for them to do something that's very nice and understated and for example, last night we were watching The Green Room again, and that style of horror film, where it is a little bit quieter, a little bit more drawn out as far as the story is concerned, and it's just very, very visually beautiful.
With Patrick Stewart, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's about
the guy that was in the Star Trek movies, Chekhov.
Oh God! And
that was his last film.
Patrick Stewart on our redneck rampage.
Yeah, they're Nazis, and he's trying to protect his Nazi.
They're
crew.
skinheads, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah.
It is a terrifying movie.
And it's beautiful though because it only takes place in the one location, So you're
low budget.
It's still so well done. And still is, to me, is more moving than like a big budget horror film with lots of like jump scares and things like that.
Yeah, like, what do you guys think about this new Hellraiser? Like, could they make a really big budget Hellraiser, or would this be, again, another, like, the original was sort of low budget,
Yeah,
well,
in my mind, the only reason to do a remake is to make it closer to the novella. That's what would get me excited about it, because Hellraiser is, to me, I mean, it's got its flaws, but to me, I'm biased, and to me, it's perfect. But
the original.
The original. Yeah. So unless I would say, try to make it exactly the novella. So Kirsty is not the daughter. She's it's like a love triangle.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Cenobites are the female Cenobite with all the tongues on her thighs.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That would be something
like
pretty
slugs.
striking. Yeah.
I mean, could they do that? Do you think they can get away with that? I mean, look at the Hostel films and stuff were a while ago now, but they were in movie theaters.
Yeah, I mean, Eli Roth, I think Eli Roth is a bit of a niche guy when it comes to violence in movies, and he's got the Inglourious Bastards. He played the Bear Jew, the guy who, they were talking about scalping Nazis.
And he made that cannibal movie, too.
Yeah, The Green Inferno.
Yeah.
Hey, and what about Mandy?
It's a remake, yeah. But
right.
Mandy is absolutely beautiful, and that's more the style that I would hope that they would go for. I am interested to know about how they would do Frank when he opens the box and he goes through like that weird trip, basically. That would be really amazing to see in film.
You mean the first time he opens the box?
Yeah, like in the novella, when he opens the box the first time and he's basically goes through, and it talks about how he can smell all these different things and hear and so forth.
Right, and all the things he brought as offerings, the piss in the jar and the dove's heads.
Yeah. But is that really filmable? Because it's such a sensory experience, because it's such an internal sensory experience. How would we, the audience, experience that or understand that he's doing that?
That's why Clive had to change things to make the original Hellraiser.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it could be done.
with the larger budget and the fact that psychedelic films are something that is pretty popular, if they were able, I think, theoretically, to reach out to someone who maybe is like really good with that psychedelic film style to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Like Jodorowsky?
Jodorowsky, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe they could do it with smell-o-vision. That would be
smell the piss.
Like someone did
smell
mention,
the guts.
They do have a little bit of hallucinogenic, a lot bit. I mean, like the whole freaking movie is about LSD. So there are quite a few.
And I mean,
what's going to make money? I mean, everybody wants to make money. I mean, Blumhouse and all them. It's all about making $1 billion in a weekend.
Well, and they like horror movies because you can make them on a low budget and then they make huge amounts of money.
Yeah, but we're talking about big budget. We're all saying a bigger budget,
Well, Ed, I mean,
the new Halloween.
Yeah, this IMDb page. I don't know, Jose, if you still have it pulled up.
Yeah.
It's box office. What is this? 14 million estimated.
Yes.
Where they get those numbers from? I don't know if y'all know.
That's kind of low budget.
That's an old number, isn't it?
I think it might be an old number, but
it may be the same now.
Yeah, at this point,
would be a low budget today's standards.
Oh, sure, yeah. But for example, I mean, going back to David S. Goyer, I mean, he's done Blade, and Blade, opens with like a nightclub full of vampires, where all of a sudden the fire sprinklers.
Yeah, and you know how long ago that was? That was
That's true.
Years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah. Gosh, has it really really been 20 years? That's so I mean
Wesley Snipes is an old man now.
Yeah, that was 1999 or 2000, I think, was Blade.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And the kind of money it made a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of the first Marvel movie adaptations. Big hits.
Big hits.
Yeah. So I mean, go ahead, Denny.
Yeah, no, I think he actually posted on his Instagram that Blade is gonna return again.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know if it'll be Wesley Snipes though.
Yeah, versus the IRS.
Oh.
He'll probably just have a cameo, I would imagine.
He'll be Whistler.
He'll be the new Whistler.
Oh my goodness. So
he could be.
I mean, violence in movies nowadays seems to be kind of subdued in certain ways. But like you guys have been talking, I mean, Panos Cosmatos, with Mandy, that movie's pretty gory, right?
Yeah, wasn't there some Cenobite-looking characters in there? I heard
the Cheddar Demon or whatever they call it.
Oh, it was at the very end. There's a motorcycle group.
Right. See, I'm blind, but my wife was describing it to me.
It's fine. It's. I would say it's a stretch. But at the same time, the movie itself is still really, really great. And I mean, if he got a chance to do a Hellraiser, I think he would own and it would be awesome.
I'm dying to see what new Cenobites they could come up with.
And also, what do you guys think if there was a female Pinhead? Who would play the part? I mean, I'm thinking Tilda Swinton.
I hope it would be an unknown, nobody even knows who it is yet.
Tilda Swinton, that's a great suggestion. I think
oh my God.
She would be great, but they could also
she's a devil, she's an angel, she's been so many things.
She's fantastic. She's the best. She would sell tickets, certainly.
She's amazing, but also they would be spending a lot of money to do that, right?
She was in Suspiria.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Right.
She's so good. She's the best.
See what I mean? She's in everything.
The new Suspiria, towards the end, well, I mean, there were some pretty violent moments in the new Suspiria, especially at the end of the film.
Oh God, yes, that dance sequence.
The dance sequence was amazing.
Yeah, the dance sequence is just terrifying. The part where
nowhere too, which was great. Which is the best.
She was in Constantine. She was in Snowpiercer.
That's right. Yeah.
She was just in Marvel's Endgame. The
I mean,
Avengers
I think she might be overexposed.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange.
Yep. And she's the ancient one.
Yeah, she's the ancient one in Doctor Strange, which has her with a shaved head, and she looks like if her suit was black, she would totally be a great Pinhead.
Right? It's true.
Yeah.
Also a Matrix reboot. Yes. Hello.
Yeah, I was listening to some stuff about the Dark City movie, And they were saying that, Richard O'Brien is one of the like Cenobite looking guys in Dark City.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Let's do the time warp again.
So yeah, I mean,
Cenobite.
So David Goyer co-wrote that script for Dark City with Alex Proyas and Lem Dobbs, and the strangers in this movie, they were very Cenobite-like, right? I mean, they had shaved heads.
Their costumes sure were.
Black.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about Cenobites right now and recasting, can I just say, if I don't play Pinhead, I really need to play the homeless man who. Because of the way I end up in Hellraiser
puzzle
Judgment.
guardian.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry, just throw it out there.
That's a cool idea.
He's continued.
Idea. Yeah,
Paul,
Really
that would be a great segue to what happens at the end of Judgment to your character.
Exactly.
I would
That's
say.
why. I mean, it's a pitch.
I mean, it could be an Easter egg.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Unless they get Doug Bradley to do it, in which case, I need to stop saying these things out loud.
Well, Doug Bradley could be the guy who gives them the box, sells them the box.
Oh,
It's true.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Bookended it right there.
Well, David S. Goyer, I mean, when the news came out, some fans were really excited, and other fans were like, well, we don't want any remakes. And then others were like, oh, no, David S. Goyer, he's the guy who destroyed the Blade franchise. And
He did not. He's just a writer.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. So no writer is going to hit blockbuster scripts all the time. I mean, not to mention sometimes the producers have ideas that need to be written into the films and whatnot. I think he's done some pretty amazing stuff that I've read before, and he's not afraid of taking chances, which I think is what Hellraiser needs.
I think you're right. That's a really good point.
I just hope Clive is deeply involved.
Right. So we need to send a message to Clive and see what he thinks about this, because I'm really curious about that. And we were talking about this last night on the phone with Ed, and we definitely need to do that, because since Clive called the podcast recently, and he said he's listened to the show and he's heard a lot of good stuff about us from Phil and Sarah at Revelations, and he wants to be on the show. So this is definitely going to be one of those questions we're going to bring up with him whenever we get a chance to talk to him again. So I'm looking forward to see what Clive has to say, because he was involved. He had a hand on actually writing treatments for the Hellraiser reboot, and now they don't really mention his name in the press release. They just say, Gary Barber says that he's known Clive for 30 years, but they don't say that he's involved in this, which is I guess something some fans might pick up as a bit of a concern. But
it's curious.
It's curious. Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested to find out. If you talk to Pete, I'm very interested to find out what Pete has to think about all this too.
Yeah, I would love to see him working on the script.
Me too.
Also.
At least consult with Goyer, perhaps.
Oh yeah. I mean, he kept the sequels all connected to each other as long as he was involved.
And he's a great writer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say it here. I think the perfect Hellraiser would be something with Peter Atkins writing, Clive Barker producing, and then Troma getting some director to come in and make Hellraiser, because Troma are masters of gore, and I just love Troma.
Well, I was thinking
that would please so many people.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I would like to see Troma involved, to be honest. I mean, I like Troma, and I like Lloyd S. Kaufman, as a personality and everything, but I hope that this one is done, with class,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to have Pinhead breaking up melon heads and stuff like that.
No.
Yeah, we don't want the Toxic Avenger in the background.
Like a Gallagher from hell,
Sorry, that's amazing. Gallagher from.
It's a sledge-o-matic.
Yeah.
Next time I do my Shaun of the Dead routine, I'm probably going to burst out laughing while I'm trying to crush the melon.
And Catalina, you just worked with Lloyd Kaufman, didn't you, on a project?
Yeah, Murder Balls.
Is that one of the Troma films coming up?
No, we were doing a fake trailer every year at Texas Frightmare Weekend. They do a fake trailer showcase.
Oh,
fun.
Sorry. Lloyd Kaufman happened to be in town, and I had sent him a message over Twitter and sent him our previous trailers that we had made. And he was like, "Sure, if I have time, I'm totally down to help out on your
Oh,
shoot."
so he was an actor for you in it?
Yes, it was really crazy. He told us to talk to his assistant. He told us to talk to his assistant, and then his assistant never emailed us back. So we didn't come up with any idea for a fake trailer. We were at all not prepared. And then the night before the actual day of filming, my husband went to a master class at UNT and then just asked Lloyd there and was like, "Hey, my wife had sent you a message over Twitter. We never heard back from your assistant. And Pat, his wife, who used to be the film commissioner, the New York film commissioner for 20 years.
Wow.
Pat got out her itinerary, and she made time. She and Lloyd together made time for us.
Cool.
That's awesome.
We showed them around town and everything, and we brought them to our favorite bar and shot a little scene. Really crazy.
That's cool. I've seen him in tons of things. He gets to be a little guest star in all kinds of little other people's movies.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
all
cool.
the time. All the his alumni of people that have gone through his, film school basically. Because like if you work actually on one of his sets in a way, you're going through a type of film school. So of course the biggest one right now is James Gunn.
Right. Yeah, he's been in every single James Gunn movie in some little part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, James Gunn used to write for him, so they used to actually write together. So essentially, James Gunn was is one of his proteges.
Oh, I know. He's got a big background with trauma.
Yep. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet. Yep.
Yep. Hey, Catalina, so Little Spark Films is working on The Torturer based on that Paul Kane short story with Paul T. Taylor, who's with us again here. So how's the status on that one? I've seen some recent special effects behind-the-scenes pictures, like you guys have cast an arm to use in the movie as a prop. So how's that going?
I am super excited about that arm. I think that's why I used to watch The Green Room last night, because there is a specific
there's an arm scene in that, huh?
In that one, and it's just so well done. And I'm just like, yes, I hope that our arm scene is that good.
Duct tape and stuff.
Something to aspire to. But yeah, the person that is in charge of our special effects is named Matthew Ash, and he is pretty much the best special effects person in our state. He is someone that, in fact, he's been asked to move to Georgia and work on several Marvel-based films several times. He just likes living in Texas. He prefers it. But he's the person that you come to if you want very graphic, very detailed effects.
Cool.
Very, very.
Catalina, I want that arm when the movie's over.
That's what I was going to ask. Who's gonna get the arm after it's done?
Yes,
Is it Paul's arm? Is it molded and cast from Paul?
Mm-hmm, it is. It's the cast of Paul's arm. And then Matt, I love him so much because he does his attention to detail is insane. He's insisting on actually adding hair to the arm, so that way it looks better.
Is it silicone? Is it a silicone arm?
No.
No. Foam?
It is,
I thought it was.
I'm not
gelatin.
Sure. It's gelatin. Yeah, it's gelatin. And it's something that he makes specifically. He's pretty no, this is my way that I do it. And I just,
well, I'm an effects artist too, and so I knew if it was done good, it was either gelatin or silicone foam.
No foam.
Yeah,
also put blood underneath. He's gonna stuffing it with blood and flesh and things like that. So we're gonna run tests on it.
Cool.
Cool.
That sounds fabulous. Yeah, that sounds fabulous. I'm sure that Paul, your character in the Kickstarter trailer, he's going to go through some terrible ordeals. And
it's really dark. It's really an unhappy place. Very unhappy.
Yeah,
torture.
I'm going to be miserable.
Torture king.
Yeah. It's not torture porn because maybe it is. I don't know what you call it. Yeah. I don't think it is because there's a lot of dialogue.
Right.
It's really about this conversation that these two are having, and then it's punctuated with some some very painful things.
Some mild torture.
Yes,
Right.
I agree, Paul. That's actually how we've also been reading it, as that story first, and the story is of a person who is in grief.
Yeah, he's in agony. Yeah,
Right.
Emotional.
Yeah, well, yes, agony.
Agony.
All kinds of agony.
Character piece.
Yes,
It really is.
That's why we specifically wanted theater actors, actually. So that's why we contacted Paul, and then I'm so glad we ended up with Lawrence, because he's great too. He's going to be really scary when we actually gets to filming. Like he already told Joe, he's like, okay, now when it comes down time to filming, I'm going to be in character, so don't get scared.
So don't chat with me.
No,
Right.
Which is great because that means that I think everything's going to go very efficiently and very smoothly.
I think that's important with this kind of piece because the emotions are so heightened, so intense that you can't just be joking around and then be in this.
You can't just turn it off and on.
No,
Right.
I mean maybe there are some out there who can, but I don't think that's going to result in a very good characterization. Actually,
Right.
And then we've gone through the storyboard cell by cell. We did that a few days ago, and then took a break to do the Frightmare stuff. And then tonight we're going to go through the storyboards again, cell by cell. Wow. I'm not sure if it's too crazy to actually get out note cards and put note cards out piece by piece, but we did discuss it. We'll probably do it.
I'm really glad to hear you're doing storyboards and stuff. That means you're being well prepared.
Oh yeah, you guys did a table reading recently, didn't you?
Yes.
With a cast, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw the picture that you guys put on the torture page. That seemed pretty a pretty entertaining moment there.
It was.
So how long is this going to be, more or less?
About 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, originally we wanted to keep it only at 20 minutes because once you get into the 30-minute mark, you've gone past the acceptable short
for short film festivals.
Yeah, the short film festivals.
Right. Yeah. For pretty much almost all. Yeah. A lot of film festivals, if you get to 40 minutes, they just call it a feature at that point.
Yeah.
But last night we were discussing for the actual, there's a montage sequence featuring the arm, and we're just like, man, we don't know how long it's going to end up being, because once we get it together, we're probably going to end up with so many things that we love that it's going to be hard to cut it down.
Well, so many films are made in the editing room.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of DC Universe movies.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean, David S. Goyer did work on Man of Steel, which I think some people are kind of ambivalent about that film. Some people loved it. Some people kind of hated it, the Man of Steel movie. But going back to that new Hellraiser. So what sort of expectations do you have for this movie, Catalina?
I agree with Ed. What Ed said was absolutely perfect. Just kind of hanging in there. We'll see what happens when it happens. I'm still stuck on, you said that the guys who did Martyrs were scheduled.
Oh, yeah, that fell away.
And that breaks my heart, even though it happened several years ago and I'm just hearing about this.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I am really sad about this. I'm very, very sad. Because
I own Martyrs on DVD. I really like it.
Yeah, I stumbled across an unrated 3-disc edition, and I was able to score it.
Wow.
For $1, and I was like, heck yes, that's mine. I have not gone to special features yet.
It's brutal. I can't imagine what a 3-disc version would be like.
No, it was the one that I had previously seen. So it was about, I guess it was probably a little bit over 2 hours or whatever the normal amount was. So maybe they added in maybe 10 more minutes or something. Maybe not even, maybe 5. Because, sometimes that's the way unrated director's cuts go.
Yeah.
Have you guys all seen that, Martyrs?
I have not, no.
Yeah, I have.
It's brutal.
I have not. It sounds like I need to see it.
Yes.
You should.
Definitely, yeah.
It's really good. It's really well made.
And I mean, we can talk a lot about the ideas that the Weinsteins were trying to sound.
Float.
Yeah, to float. Like at one point we did a series at our podcast where we got a hold of a few treatments from some of the things that were on, Bob and Harvey Weinstein's desk. and some of them were just terrible, but others were. I know, right, Ryan? You remember the one about someone was going to try to put Hitler's heart inside the body of a child?
Wow!
And I was like, what does this have? What does this have to do with Hellraiser? It's like,
and that would turn him into the Antichrist.
Oh God!
Right.
I'm pretty sure Hitler's heart is.
The idea itself could be fun.
Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to go to the ridiculous world where, we saved Hitler's heart.
His brain
cryogenically frozen.
Yeah.
But the heart has nothing to do with the soul. Come on, whatever. Okay, never mind.
It was going to be terrible. We're going to have those trophy things like, for example, there's a cult and people have a tattoo of the diamond of Leviathan on their neck or on their arm, which is like, if you're a secret society, you want to put the tattoo on your neck. Yeah, that's like. What kind of secret society is that? Yeah. It's like
hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, it was going to be weird. But there were some people at some point scheduled to work on a reboot for Hellraiser. For example, when they had Julian Maury and Alexandra Bustillo, these were guys who did this movie called Inside from 2007. And that movie is so gory that literally it's like a woman trying to steal another woman's baby from her belly with a giant scissor.
I mean, like, I've always thought about watching it, but I never really, I still haven't. Is it good?
Yeah, it's really good, but it's so intense. It is really intense. I mean, just check it out. Yeah, check it out. Yeah.
Well, and, that's what I'm loving to talk to all you people about the concepts of what could they do with a new Hellraiser. Like, in other words, I mean, obviously, Ryan, you were saying that they're talking about a reimagining, but that means the novella, the Hellbound Heart as the source material. But what about other Hellraiser concepts and ideas? Like, look at all these scripts that we're talking about, and
right.
Where else could they go? I mean, look at all the stories from the comic books. I mean, as a wide open field, where would you guys want to see it go?
They totally ignored the comics, and those comics ran for almost a decade.
Right, 10 years of comic books
and it's
material
like,
that they own.
It's not like they don't have material to work with, especially with coming up with new Cenobites. It's like, well, we already have this and this many. Look at these books.
Yeah, and then during
they'll go to the Marvel model and they think, okay, we got the Marvel universe, cinematic universe. Well, the Hellraiser comic book, Clive Barker universe exists,
and that was sad because then during the 90s, instead of you going to that, for some easy scripts, they just decided to just keep
rehash old scripts from cop. Police procedurals and stuff.
And just remake Jacob's Ladder over and over again. Oh, he's in hell, but he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
The twist ending,
I mean,
sorry. That one's my least favorite, personally.
Let's hear from you guys. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Danny, you want to go on?
Yeah. I mean, because I've been researching with my writing.
Right.
And, Pete has written, when he did Hellraiser 3, he wrote many treatments. So, I'd like to see some of maybe those stories come to fruition. I mean, there was one
I'd love to hear, Pete pick Pete's head, pick his brain and see what he thinks.
You guys remember there was a Hellraiser 3 concept, I believe, that was supposed to take place in Egypt, where like a whole pyramid was going to turn into a lament configuration. That sounded tremendous,
Yeah. And there was the one in the brothel where Pinhead had
that Pete wrote. Yeah, right. There's like a sauce, like a soup in the basement that has like tentacles that run up into the house. It's a brothel where all the different bedrooms have like a prostitute that has like a tentacle that runs out her back down into the soup of primordial goo in the basement.
Yeah, and Pinhead had like an insect carapace instead of an outfit.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and there was even one. There was a treatment involving the mafia as well. There was one involving the mafia, and there was one involving the character of Ronson from Hellbound Hellraiser 2, the detective.
Oh,
that's right. Ronson,
It suffered some accidental damage.
Right.
A corpse suffered some accidental damage.
I mean, I think in my idea, I think Hellraiser needs to walk. This is just my personal opinion. I think Hellraiser needs to walk a path between having some sort of gore and some sort of, shocking imagery, but also we can't lose track of that elevated imagery of like the Cenobites being someone who's unreachable and cold, the heart of cold, like Paul Taylor said, where they're these creatures who have gone beyond our needs, beyond our desires, and they're kind of elevated by it. They move into a different state of consciousness.
But how do you depict that?
And that's what S&M is all about. Is that
right?
Yeah,
how do you depict all this stuff on screen, though?
Well, first of all, you get an actor with a British accent.
Yeah.
Or who can fake? Yes.
Or who can fake, or an actor from Texas who can fake a nice British accent.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I start to worry about like some little subtle change can kind of ruin it. Like for me, when Romero's movies started getting remade, like when they remade Dawn of the Dead and the zombies are like running really fast, it's like
James Gunn. James Gunn.
Right. And I mean that just doesn't do it for me. To me, it's like this isn't Romero's movie.
Yeah,
right.
fast running versus slow moving Romero's.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
I mean,
The problem with it is the fact that since you're updating it for a new audience, the audience today is so different from the audience 30 years ago.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. What are we going to do with social justice
Like I saw,
Hellraiser?
right, I saw someone laughing about how it was a little video being passed around about audience reactions when The Exorcist first came out, right?
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And all these people that were like, oh, they're so lame, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, you guys, you're not understanding. This was, 40 years ago?
A different time period.
People were throwing up and running out of the theater when that came out.
Yeah, the Catholic Church was protesting it at theaters.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
I remember that.
How are you going to make Hellraiser for today's audience, where we
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Where we
So-
What do you
already
guys
have
think?
such a high expectation for blood and gore.
Is
You
it for
think-
today's audience, or is it for nostalgic people like us?
Well, it's going to be in the movie theater, and I mean nowadays,
Yeah.
think about movie theaters. They have to make, $1 billion on opening weekend nowadays.
Sure. I think that people have been a bit desensitized over the last couple of decades. I mean, the 90s,
To
you look
gore
at them
and
to gore.
violence.
Yeah, maybe they've been a little desensitized. I mean, you remember back when Dracula came out, they had the character of Dr. Helsing come out in a sequence before the movie even starts
Right.
and say,
in the black
hey,
and white era,
yeah, I just want to let you guys know this movie's going to be scary, and we
you've
told
been
you so.
warned.
Yeah, it's like they had to put that in before the movie starts. And Dracula with Bela Lugosi, even though there's a lot to be said, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but it's like not scary at all by today's standards, unless you, yeah. So
But
I don't know.
The thing about Hellraiser, and Clive would be the first to say this, is that it's not about just gore. It's about the sadomasochism and the otherness and the
It's a love story.
alienness.
The pain and pleasure indivisible, which is that
Yes,
thing that
yes.
breaks a lot of people's brains, because a lot of
Yes.
people are like, how is pain and pleasure indivisible? You either, I don't like pain, I like pleasure, but the thing is, you can mix them together.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, they've never explored the further regions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Also-
explorers in the further regions.
There's
of
another
experience.
There's another exploration in the movie too, and that's Julia's exploration. I mean, she's awakened as a sexual being in this movie, and because her husband doesn't do it for her, and of course Frank
The
does.
forbidden fruit.
Yeah, so he's not. I don't believe that that they're exploring the world of S&M. Their relationship.
Yeah.
Theirs is
No,
just
no.
really good sex,
Well,
And
and
that's-
then,
And by
for-
today's standards, it seems like there is a movement. There's a movement in the world, and we know it stems from feminism, and it stems from equality and human rights. And I think that a new Hellraiser could explore that. I think the first one did as well, because it was Julia's story, and the novella is Julia's story.
yeah. Well,
in a
and
way,
then in Hellraiser 2, Julia got him back, right? So
Yeah. So I think that may be, to answer the question of what can they do. I guess sort of what you're asking is what can they do to make it different than the original? Why does it need to be made? And I think that may be part of it. If they went with a female Cenobite, that would also be part of it. Now, I'm granted from my position, my selfish position of wanting to play Pinhead again, I don't want to see female.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I realize that could very well easily happen, and that it does have a reason. And the poeticism. Anyway, the fact that the Weinsteins fell so far from where they were, and it had to do with women saying, "No, you're not going to do this to us anymore."
Yeah.
Couple that with the fact that there could be a female Pinhead taking over. It just seems like, I don't know, that may be. I don't know that the makers of this new movie have thought of that yet. Who knows?
Well, if you're going back to the source material, I mean, think about the first film. Only 6 minutes total in the whole movie. Cenobites or violence or anything. I mean, it's mostly a melodrama,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's much more intimate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just 3 people in a house. It's in Cricklewood.
Which is horrifying in itself. The fact that the fact that it's so isolated, and it's like what hell, I would imagine, is. You can't get out of this tiny little situation that you're in. There's no one who can help you. I mean, it's really,
If I could say something about my idea for Hellraiser, how I think
you can't say anything.
How I think that this could work, and it's like, just again, my personal opinion. Paul, you were saying a while ago about the Cenobites and how they're in this constant state of almost like permanent edging and on the verge of whatever orgasm.
That's what I think. I think that's important to it.
And I think that comes across in both Doug Bradley's depiction of Pinhead and your depiction of Pinhead, because you see this intention of purpose in their focused demeanor.
And it makes it, and then they can relate to why they're there. I can explain to you exactly why I exist.
And intensity.
Right.
But at the same time, they're also bored because they've been doing it for
ever.
Forever, and they've seen it all.
And after a while, it doesn't feel so great anymore because it's just like a constant state.
It's
not
annoying.
special anymore.
Hitting a wall, where it still feels good, but then you're hitting a wall. You can't get past.
What's the next level? Go to the next level.
It's an addiction. It's like heroin addiction,
which is kind of what Scarlet Gospels is about. Which I think. I'm a little sad that we haven't seen any hint of anyone exploring the idea of making a film out of the Scarlet Gospels.
Oh my God, that would be an epic trilogy.
It would be so great, and a great way to end the Hellraiser stories. I mean, if you're going to end the movies,
Pinheads, really.
And if I can just continue, I was going to say that gore is important for Hellraiser, but there's also this need to have it in proper context. And I think the context of Hellraiser basically is the original tagline for the first film was "There are no limits," right? There are no limits. That was the tagline for the first Hellraiser. And it breaks all these taboos. There's like the hint of incest between Frank and Kirsty.
Yes.
There is, being
especially
unfaithful. Right, exactly. And being unfaithful with Larry and the triangle that happens between Julian and Frank and Larry, which in the novel is Rory. But and I think the idea of the Cenobites, what's attractive to me about the Cenobites is not just that they're, the surgeons from beyond. Once Clive described that the Cenobites would be, the hell of the Cenobites. Imagine an entire, city of operating theaters. That's basically what the Cenobites, one of the first ideas that Clive had for the Cenobite hell would be, imagine these surgeons from beyond, and all they do is have all these buildings full of operating theaters, and that's where the gore comes in. But these people, these creatures, the Cenobites, the Cenobite, the name itself means that they live in a monastic community.
Right, in a cell.
In a cell, right? The first Hellraiser was supposed to have pictures of the Cenobites in their little tiny monkish cells when they weren't needed, and then when the box would be open, they would, go out and do their thing, just like a monk.
Focus on that.
Yeah, I hope that they would
Because
focus on that.
talk about it, and it's very important. And I don't remember who was saying earlier about how it's its own universe, but
Me.
sorry. Yeah, it's important that that's something that never gets talked about. Pinhead, I'm sorry, Pinhead is not the main character.
Right.
Cenobites themselves are each their own personality.
And see, that's the thing about all us fans, that we all know that stuff, and it's kind of like in between the pages. You know what I mean? It's like it's not overtly spelled out. It's like, there's this guy named Mr. H Reviews on YouTube who has this ginormous playlist of Hellraiser things where he breaks everything down Cenobite by Cenobite and everything. And it's like the fans know all this stuff. It's like when they make this new movie, in a way, like, are they making it for the general public? Are they making it for the fans? Who is the audience?
When I was having drinks when we were filming Judgment, we were we took the actress who played Joe Field to Hooters because it was there. She was British. She'd never been to a Hooters. It was in the parking lot with the hotel. Anyway, we're having, or maybe this was later in the hotel lobby. No, this was at the bar. That's right. And we're having this conversation. We've had a few drinks, and Mike Leahy points at Helena, who played Joe Field, and he says, "No, he points,
the angel."
He points to me first, and he says, "You're the franchise." And he points to her and says, "You're the future." So they were definitely going to be
thinking about that,
setting this thing up. And I think it, of course, stemmed from the comic books and the graphic novels and everyone introducing the idea of a female Pinhead. And but just the fact that he said franchise and future, the reason that they need Pinhead to be such a large character, I know you guys already know this, but it's to make bucks. They have to have their poster,
their icon,
right?
Freddy Krueger.
The slasher.
But it got to a point where it took away from the actual story as the movies went on, and it became about Pinhead. I don't know. My point was there. I don't know.
Well, you're totally
I don't feel
right.
like I'm saying anything new.
They would take a horror movie script and they say, put Pinhead and the box in there, and now it's a Hellraiser movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But see, that's bastardizing this potential.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It really is. I agree. I completely agree.
But see, if we're going to get the full potential, I think, the reimagining, the going back to square one, it's got to be like the people who are behind this, the financial people and stuff, have to say, okay, Clive was an auteur director. You got to find somebody like a Guillermo or something who's going to be given his head, given free reign, to make. And Goyer, if Goyer writes something that's really out there, who's going to make this? How are they going to finance a film that's going to be, what's it called? Other, this is really a strange thing to make a big money-making movie out of,
Yeah, I mean, because it would be great if Del Toro would direct it, because him and Goyer worked on Blade.
He could give it they've worked together before.
Doug Jones
he could give it the right flavor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's cool.
Be pretty cool. Yeah.
Doug Jones, also known as the poor man's Paul T. Taylor.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Now, we're going to have Doug Jones fans send us hate mail now.
I love him so much. I love him.
He's great.
Yeah.
Fan service.
Yes.
Fan service.
So I guess the general consensus is that we're excited about this, and I guess we're going to have to wait until we get some more.
Wait and see.
Yeah.
I came up
But
with
hopefully
a new
Clive
tagline.
is going to get involved, and gosh, it'd be great if you could ask Pete some questions about it, what he knows about this and what he thinks and stuff. I would love to hear Pete's take on all this.
Guys, I came up with a new tag word. I mean, a new for the movie, for the poster. You said that it was there are no limits. Well, they need to just change it to there are no safe words. I think that would be
Yeah.
sort of,
That would work.
There are no safe words.
But I'm really curious. Are they going to do focus groups? Are they going to, today's filmmaking is weird,
Yeah. How do you shock?
Yeah.
How do you surprise people these days, especially with a remake?
how do you attract big name actors if you're going to get a big name actor to be, your flagship? A lot of times a big name actor or a big name director gets attached to a project like this. Like for now, it's Goyer, but who will come next? It's like if they get a script or a treatment or anything, and then they got to get a director involved, because once a director gets involved, then they change it. Like, between Proyas and Goyer, when they worked on Dark City, Proyas really is the director, and he wrote, there's 3 names on that script, which is very unusual. The Writers Guild doesn't usually do that. But because, they allowed 3 names on that script, that Goyer did have a lot to do with Dark City. But I just heard a bunch of stuff about Proyas, how he saw Richard O'Brien, he saw the, like certain things influenced him, to make the Dark City, characters the way they were. They were aliens, and I like Dark City, and I think like, wow, that could be a whole Hellraiser movie there,
Sure.
That was my first DVD.
Really? That's cool.
That is awesome.
Good film.
Go ahead, Catalina.
I was just saying it's funny that all this happened the way it did, because we watched it a few weeks ago. I was bored and I was at the library and I was like, oh look, hey, Dark City, it's not scratched up. I guess I will watch this tonight.
Yeah.
Also,
and last month we watched it.
I very recently went out and bought the Blade trilogy.
Oh, wow.
2 weeks ago.
Which one was your favorite?
The second one.
Yeah.
The
I like the
Guillermo
second
one
the best.
The Guillermo one.
Well, yeah.
I agree.
The thing
why.
that bugs me about the Blade trilogy is that they change up the origin of vampires in all 3 of the movies. Like the first one, there's a blood god, and then in the second one, no, it's a disease, and then in the third one, actually it's Dracula.
Right.
Well, the blood god
Goyer
is
wrote all
Dracula,
3 of
and he
them, too,
transmits
which
a
is weird.
disease. So
Goyer wrote all 3.
Yeah.
But back to Dark City for a second. The thing about the way Dark City has got aliens inside of dead people, and the way that the costumes of the alien characters look, and the fact that it's all takes place in the dark, and there's never any sun.
and a city that's kind of a maze.
Yeah, like Hellraiser.
Well, and at that time there were 3 movies that had a plot where people didn't know what was going on in the world, right? That they were in living sort of a lie. There was the 13th Floor, there was the Matrix, and there was Dark City.
Right, and the Dark City came first. Matrix is after. Yeah. And they did say that, in fact, that some of the influence of the Matrix was from Dark City.
From Dark City, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's overlooked. It's an overlooked film.
Yes, it really is. Well, because the reason also I grabbed it was we recently had a friend move in with us, and so she doesn't know anything about films at all. Like, she watches like Big Brother and stuff. So it's been very interesting showing all these films to her. So for Dark City, we sat down and we watched the whole thing from start to finish, and we're giving her commentary about, this is how this is. And so we did explain the storyline as well, because she's not as familiar with these types of storylines. And then a few days ago, we were talking about it. And as it turns out, she did not pay attention and did not understand any of it. With our added commentary. So that's something that I find interesting. So an average person, I would
goes
say,
right over their head.
Consumer, they are not a fan of that style. So back to what kind of audience is Hellraiser going to be?
Yeah, with today's kind of dumbed down audiences and stuff, can you be that cerebral?
But
yeah.
I think
intellectual.
I think you can.
Really intellectual.
You can, because Hereditary was great and it did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't in the theaters,
It was. It was. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like the problem is I want to know if they're going for like full blown blockbuster, or are they going to go for more, putting it in a few theaters, like maybe like some Alamo Drafthouse, putting it in I think Harkins does like the art side of things.
Well, if you know about producing and releasing films, it's like they want to go for a big release. Usually, I mean, if they're making a millions and millions of dollars into a film, and then that's just the budget, then they make the same amount of investment in the advertising budget. So, like, if you make a $30 million movie, you put another $30 million into just advertising,
right.
prints and stuff.
What I'm saying is that the type of film that you make will be completely different. If they're going to be doing, like we said, this big budget, and when I say big budget, I mean Hollywood size big budget, not lower end big budget. And also the budget sizes for horror films in general are different.
Right. Really, like Blumhouse would make like a $15 to $20 million movie.
Right, exactly, and they still get a really good release, and
like they could make a $15 to $20 million movie and then get $500 million back.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's kind of the question I have: is what type of style of producing are they going to be going for? And I think that that's really going to determine how the film turns out in the end.
Yeah.
And also, I think the rating up front is going to be a very big factor. Like if they say it's going to go for a hard R, then we can kind of relax and say, okay, it's going to be good, hopefully.
What versus PG-13?
Oh my God!
Oh, I don't. Oh,
wasn't the Nightmare on Elm Street remake PG-13?
I think so. I mean, nowadays any studio wants to do that because they think they're going to make more money.
Yeah.
And then the horror fans thumbs down.
I think we're falling in love with ours again, even like for big budget, huge budget, because that's why Deadpool did really well, even though
that's one of the few examples that you can point to that there were two Deadpool movies that were R and they were superhero quote unquote.
But that's brand new. That is something that has only recently happened in the past few years.
Right.
So
and they kept the budgets down on those too.
They did.
Yeah.
They were still enjoyable. Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 was rated R.
Oh, was it? Okay, I think maybe there was just talk about it being PG-13.
I guess maybe because he's a child molester, it's really hard to not make that R.
Well, but they don't say that. They call him a child murderer. Like that's better, I guess.
Not in the first one. Not in the first one.
Right.
No, they said filthy child murderer in the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Really? I thought it was child molester as well.
I think people fill in the blanks.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Especially though, in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, like when they're talking about what happened to him and everything, I thought they said, the parents ganged up on him because he was raping their kids.
Yeah.
Maybe not saying raping their kids, but child molester.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Nowadays it's like with the kind of movies like how Captain Marvel was like a social justice film, and the way that they're the studios and stuff are pushing equal rights, making women lead action heroes, even though they've been doing it forever. Sigourney Weaver, Alien, T2, Linda Hamilton. I mean, it's not new, and I wonder if they would do that to a Hellraiser movie, if they would make the female lead Cenobite, the female lead character like Uncle Frank, instead of Uncle Frank, make it a woman, or who knows.
I honestly don't see anything wrong with it. And also, the Hellbound Heart is about Julia. I believe Paul said that Julia is the main character.
Right. I wonder what they'll do with that.
Well, I really believe that Hellraiser is about Julia too. The original film too is about a woman.
Yeah, Clive agrees. Clive said too.
She was poised to be the star of all the Hellraiser movies.
That's right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, not that they were saying we're going to make 10 of these, but
Yeah.
They made the first one.
But the continuing character was going to be Julia. You're right.
Yeah.
So I hope that this goes forward. I think it's fair to say that we're all kind of excited about it. And if we could go,
an understatement.
Mm-hmm. If we could go through each guest's upcoming projects, I guess. Danny, so what have you been up to? So you've been working on interviews for the Making of Hellraiser 3 book, War is Hell. So you recently got some interviews in the can, right? Who did you talk to?
Oh, so I've interviewed pretty much all the cast, except Bradley.
Uh-huh.
And I've interviewed the director, Anthony Hickox, and the effects guys. I got a message back from Gary Tunnicliffe as well. who sent me some of his answers back. Yeah.
Well, you know,
really
Gary
cool.
Tunnicliffe did not work on location. He only did the reshoot in L.A. and he made the boxes and stuff in England.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said. So, yeah, and Pete Atkins this week.
Pete, now pick Pete's brain. I would love to hear a big, long interview with Pete.
Yeah.
And you've been working with some very talented artists, right? To do not just commission posters, but also the cover for your book, right? You've recently started making. I've recently seen Anthony Galatis in Facebook. He's been posting some amazing work that we've been sharing at the official Hellraiser page and our Clive Barker podcast page. Drawings of Pinhead torturing souls and stuff. So, are you working with him to make another commission?
Yeah, actually, I've gave him the original scripts of Hellraiser 3, and he's gonna do some artwork or kind of comic strips of the original script.
Oh wow, that's going to be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's going to do some panels for me, so that's going to go in the book.
Excellent.
Oh wow, cool!
Yeah.
Wish I could see that.
Yeah, I'll send you guys some, and also the storyboard
Well,
artist.
what I mean is I'm blind, so I won't be able to see it, but I wish I could.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody will have to describe it real good to me.
Yeah.
I gotcha. And then I've got the storyboard artist of Hellraiser 3, who's actually he's done some work for me already, and he's worked on some big projects. You know, he's worked for DC and Marvel. And
What's his name?
John Floyd.
I've got some original storyboards from him from Hellraiser 3.
That's right. Yeah, he's an awesome guy. He's a cool guy.
I mean, Bob Keane gave me original, actual pencil and paper, drawings of Hellraiser 3 storyboards.
That's awesome.
Whoa.
I own them.
awesome.
That's really cool.
I've got some rare stuff. I'll have to talk to you off the podcast.
Yeah, I'll give you an ad. And also, do you guys have Amazon?
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, not anymore. Well, if you do, check out the Dark Ditties series.
Absolutely.
Dark Ditties. Doing a podcast about it.
Yeah. Danny's in a couple of episodes of the Dark Ditties. You play the Gimp in the first one, The Offer, and you play the same character on the second one. You're the bastard Benoit.
Benoit, yeah, that's
How
right.
did I not know that? I saw that. Oh, that's so great.
That's so cool.
Great.
Did need.
Yeah, I've listened to the podcast with the commentaries.
Awesome.
So that's cool.
And then-
They're fun.
And then I've been working with or collaborating with Michael Madsen on a documentary about his life.
Really? Oh, wow.
Wow.
He's fascinating.
And I mean, like, personally
Reservoir
as well.
Dogs.
Yeah. And also I was involved with a documentary about Oliver Stone's Platoon, Brothers in
Awesome.
Arms.
Awesome.
And kind of good friends with Tony Todd, who was the Candyman.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he's great. I've met him several times.
he's such a nice guy. And they're doing a new Candyman actually as well. They're
I
doing a new
know.
Candyman.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Following about it.
Jordan Peele, right?
Yes, Jordan Peele.
right.
That's awesome. Those are very exciting projects, and keep us posted about that. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, while I'm here, I've got to say, also the Ghostbusters documentary I'm involved with, which I'm the executive
Awesome.
producer on, is going to Cannes. It's now.
Oh,
I just found out,
excellent.
That's
Brilliant.
Wow. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Exciting times, I'm telling you. Really, I mean, I'll have to add all you guys on.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is that being produced by
Absolutely.
Dead Mouse Productions? Or
Oh, the Ghostbusters documentary. No,
Yeah.
it's Buno Productions. It's another company.
oh, I see.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Cool. Is that Cleaning Up the Town or something? That's called.
Yeah, that's right. Cleaning up the town,
Yes.
remembering the Ghostbusters.
I
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
collection of spores and fungus.
And also another
Printer's dead.
yeah. And another documentary I'm involved with is a documentary about the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, wow.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
No.
One of my buddies worked on that in L.A.
Oh really?
Jeremy Aiello, yeah.
Oh, cool.
One of the
Hey.
first films he ever worked on when he moved to L.A.
Wow.
We've
Seems
been
like you
together.
might be able to interview him if you get his contact. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
Oh, I've got
I
his
mean,
contact.
oh, have you? I'd give you an ad, definitely. And I was trying to think what other sort of projects I've been working on. There's quite a few. Oh, Pennywise, the story of it, which is another one I'm part of as well. I'm
awesome.
Wow. Hopefully somebody's house isn't on fire.
Oh, it's my house is over here. There's an ambulance going by or something.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So,
that's it. That's all kind of all the stuff I've been doing, really.
God, I love
excellent.
your career, man. You've had some great projects.
Yeah. And so we know what's going on with the torture, but we talked about it a little bit earlier in the episode. And what's next for Paul T. Taylor? You've been recently at a convention, right, in Atlanta, and then you're going to be in Spooky Spectacle on September 14 and 15, right?
That's right. Yeah, I have some others. Let me go. I probably need to grab my calendar to tell you exactly what I'm doing because I did not prepare very well. But in the meantime, I can tell you, I actually went to Atlanta as an exploratory. It was an exploratory visit. I didn't do a convention.
I see.
Of moving there because there's so much film and TV work as opposed to Dallas. But
like The Walking Dead and everything.
There's a lot. It's a major life change. We'll see. But right now, I seem to be attracting a lot of work, which is great. And the universe is just sort of, my profile's raised a bit from the Hellraiser film, actually. I mean, obviously. But we'll be doing The Torturer in just a couple of weeks. We're going to be shooting that. And then I have another film called Roadhead that's going to shoot in L.A. Early part of June, which is it's a nice little featured role that is it's by the same people who did Sick for Toys, which I was in. Right. This is a bit of a larger role, but it's kind of a crazy sex horror comedy thing. It should be a lot of fun.
It's exciting.
It's kind of, it's called Roadhead. So all of the things that you might think it's about is about from that title, including lots of decapitation, but also some other kinds of decapitation. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then later in June, I'm going to be shooting Los Angeles Shark Attack in San Diego. It's crazy. Is
it like a Sharknado kind of thing?
Kind of. It's no budget film work. I mean, that's what they call it, no budget. It was a very low budget. A guy named Dustin Ferguson writes and directs these movies, and he just cranks them out. And it's going to be a lot of fun. He's the guy who was going to be doing Ghost House, but that fell through, so we're not doing that. But so I'm going to be doing that later in June, and then I'll be going to Dark Fest in Cleveland, Ohio, at the end of June.
Nice.
And then in July, I'm going to Oklahoma City for Nightfall, Haunted Territory, HorrorCon, and Slash and Bash in August in Lawrence, Kansas. And then, as you mentioned, Spooky Spectacle. And I did just get cast in a play that I'm very excited about. And it's a new script for Dracula. And and it's gonna be crazy. I'm not supposed to talk too much about it because the casting has not been announced, but I don't think a lot of Dallas theater people
listen to this podcast.
Well, exactly. So I'll just tell you, I'm playing Renfield, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh wow!
Oh
yeah.
wow!
So the craziness continues, and I'm just just going forward. And just letting the universe bring this stuff to me. And it's funny, I've had, when I first got cast as Pinhead, yes, let me talk about it a little bit more. I had been meditating towards getting what I want in my life and towards letting the universe bring it to me and all this stuff. And I had this board up in front of my elliptical machine that had all these kinds of things. And then it seemed to work because it brought me Pinhead, whether you believe in that those energies or not. It's the universe responding to what you really, really want. So I put one up. A couple years ago, I did an extra sheet all by itself up there, and it says Paul T. Taylor as Pinhead, Hellraiser 11, 2019. So it's kind of like, what's going on here, universe? And this is one of the reasons why I'm not going to give up any hope until I'm absolutely told this is not happening for you, Paul. So because I've moved on with my life, because I have to, you have to, you can't, put eggs in a basket that don't exist. But just, I look at that piece of paper up there and I'm like, wow, I did that. What did that do? What kind of energies? I don't know. It's hocus pocus. Some people believe in it. Some people don't. But meanwhile, it's a business, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing public appearances, and I'm making movies, and I'm doing theater. So I'm a very happy person right now. Very busy. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And any offers that come in for films, I will entertain those offers. So
he will negotiate.
And Jose was hinting a little while ago that there was a Cenobite connection to Sin City. That's because you were in Sin City.
Yeah, I was in Sin City. That was my first movie, which is a great way to start.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's right. You were in Sin City. That's
the lawyer.
And in
Robert
Super.
Rodriguez.
James Gunn's Super as well.
And Soul Man,
I like
right?
Super.
And
Yeah,
Soul
Super's
Man.
cool.
You're a hotel manager there, I think.
Yeah, with Bernie Mac and Sam J. Jackson.
I miss Bernie.
So life goes on. Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
It's great. He was sort of giving me some fun direction on that movie, even though he wasn't the director. But it was like, Mac, I'll do whatever you say.
Well, that's awesome. I hope you keep meeting lots of fans of the Pinhead from Judgment. I think you got a good reception. I was there at Texas Frightmare Weekend last year, and there were a lot of people interested in meeting you and getting all sorts of swag signed by you and taking their picture with you. Yeah. So that's a good sign.
It felt great. Yeah, 2018 was a very exciting year for me for conventions. I went to some really great places, met some fantastic people. David Arquette gave me a scarf. That was nice. He just gave me a scarf out of nowhere. I said, I like the scarf. He said, you want it? So, So 2019, that's a little quieter because, the movie made its splash. It wasn't a huge splash, but it was pretty big for me. So hopefully that continues,
Hashtag Paul Taylor for Pinhead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul for Pinhead. I'm all about it.
Well, break a leg. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All the best.
Thank you, Ed.
All the best.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for this special discussion of the upcoming Hellraiser reboot. I mean, it's awesome to see so many people doing so many projects that are still connected to Hellraiser. Like Danny, your book about Hellraiser 3, and Ed, of course, you were one of the mentors of the fandom Cenobium magazine.
Oh, shucks.
And that is still being collected by fans and talked about today. And of course, Catalina, you got Paul with the Torturer, and you were with us in Texas Frightmare Weekend. We were interviewing the Cenobites, and so amazing stuff from everybody here. And I think the 30th anniversary of Hellraiser was a landmark time. I think it brought back Hellraiser for a lot of people, and hopefully the 40th anniversary of Hellraiser will be seeing a reviving of the franchise. That would be tremendous.
Yeah, that would.
From your lips to Leviathan's ears.
I don't even know what we would do for a 40th anniversary.
And please, Clive, get involved.
Yeah.
I will sew my outfit to my skin for the 40th anniversary of Hellraiser.
That's a little much.
And I'll help you.
Well, I mean, because we did throw a party for the 30th here in Texas.
Oh, you did?
So,
nice.
Yeah, so having another party would be pretty crazy because it would be so much bigger. It'd be fun. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Woo!
I made a sheet cake once for a friend of mine's birthday where I did an airbrush painting of Pinhead on a sheet cake and put all the pins were the candles on his head.
Oh, fabulous.
That's cool.
Oh, wow. Hey, did you post that on Facebook? I think I might have seen that.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was a sculptural cake, right? It was the entire head?
No, I just did a flat sheet
Oh, you
cake,
said sheet cake. That's right.
Painted it on it.
That's awesome.
Okay, so exciting times for Hellraiser and everybody involved, and let's keep in touch and let's see where this new project goes and what other information comes out in terms of pre-production. I mean, the Jordan Peele's Candyman, they've been pretty constant with giving us updates about what's going on with that. They announced when they got a director. They announced when they had the script written. Hopefully, we'll get the same for this new Hellraiser. And we'd love to bring all you guys back at some point and talk about it as soon as we know any casting opportunities or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to work on trying to get an interview or something, maybe with Goyer or,
Yes, I am looking. I'm looking to see if I can find his Twitter account. There's one with no tweets on it, so I need to keep looking and see if there's any
He
way.
has a website.
Right. I think I have it open right here. I was looking at some of the movies that he did on his own website. So yeah, maybe there's a way to contact him and try to get him.
Yeah.
And reach out to Clive and see what Clive thinks about all this. That's
I'm dying to find out about that.
The maestro himself, right?
Yeah.
So
Have you ever tried to get him on the podcast?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He volunteered. He said he would.
Yeah.
We talked to him on the phone a few weeks ago, and he's very interested in maybe joining us for the summer here at the podcast. So we're trying to make it work. And that's exciting times, exciting times ahead.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
I love this podcast.
And we love you, Ed. We love all our guests. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And best of luck for all your projects.
So that was great. It was really fun talking to all those guys, and it was really neat to hear all those different perspectives and ideas about what the potential Hellraiser movie could be, or what we would like to see.
What the hell is this Hellraiser going to be?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so hey, we'll see. I mean, we'll keep you guys posted as soon as we have any other news about it, and we're going to try to get in touch with other people and possibly even Clive Barker and see what he has to say about this new Hellraiser reboot, reimagining, whatever you want to call it. Having a worldwide theatrical distributed Hellraiser, I think would be a really good thing because, bar it being a terrible movie, which I don't think it would be, because they would. If they're going to do a theatrically distributed movie, they're definitely going to put some budget into it. So I'm pretty sure it's not going to be something like Hell World or Deader
no,
or anything like that.
Yeah, that automatically gives it a bump up just because it's going to be a theatrical quality movie.
Yes, and that. Some people from the community have been a little skeptical about this, and I think you got some comments here from listeners that have posted something about our news blog. So you want to get started on that?
Yeah, a couple of funny ones I thought, interesting and funny. So one of them, Eric Adams said in the Hellbound Web Facebook group, he said, any grown adult who willingly uses the term reimagining deserves pity from neither man nor beast.
Okay, kind of dramatic there.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of an I mean, I don't know. It does kind of sound like Hollywood speak, and I think people are getting a little tired of remakes as an outlet for movies and stuff.
Right. I mean, I understand where it's coming from. I kind of don't really necessarily agree with it, but I understand where he's coming from. Like I keep saying this, whenever they made the remake or the imagining or the reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street or...
Yeah, that was boring.
That was boring. It didn't really bring any life to the franchise. They never made any other movie after that. Same with the Friday the 13th reboot. Yeah. And then, I used to bring up the Halloween remakes, but now we have a new Halloween. So
yeah. There's three different timelines of Halloween.
Yeah, but in my opinion, I enjoy the new Halloween movie, but I just thought it didn't really add anything new to it. It's like, okay, well, it was a very, entertaining movie, but it's how many times can you see Michael Myers, get shot or get burned or, fall down a window and then just get up and keep walking and killing. After a while, I don't know. The thing about Pinhead versus Michael Myers is always that Pinhead's been a much more interesting character than Michael Myers. Michael Myers is interesting in its own way because he's just this walking void of killing machine thing. But at some point they have to come up with other things to put into the story. I mean, I'm not going to say that the Cult of Thorn was like the best backstory they could come up with Michael Myers, but but at least it was something. It wasn't just him like continuously trying to kill people. But so we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Reimagining, Is it a bad thing? I don't know. We got into that with the conversation, especially when Catalina was saying things like that movies that were done 20, 30 years ago probably don't have as much shock value for modern audiences as we have today. And so maybe that's one of the reasons why some of these movies end up getting reimagined. And I can hear you type.
Yeah, sorry. I was donating to Ann Bobby's GoFundMe.
Oh, there you go. Live on the podcast. There you go. Another donation for the Media Barista.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, the original franchise isn't going anywhere. The original Hellraiser is still going to be there. And with a worldwide theatrical distribution, it's just going to bring more interest into the original movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and so I think just like I said, just with that, I mean, it's well above anything from Hellraiser 5 through 9, you know, and the budget is I mean, the budget has got to be higher than Hellraiser Judgement, which was like was $250,000 or something like that.
I think around $200,000 or something. And we have another fan here who has a more positive outlook on it. Is Adam Ducey says from the Hellraiser movie official Facebook group, says, I honestly think this could be a good film with elements that would please both hardcore fans and newcomers. The people behind it seem to respect Clive greatly, and I feel that if they truly want to reboot the series, take it back to its roots and don't hold any content back for the sake of the audience. Hellraiser broke ground by being a film that defied convention in a time where horror tropes were firmly cemented in a certain way, as it showed that the monsters were the people in your life, and it introduced many to the underground appeal of BDSM. It needs to show us the dysfunctional family dynamic, which was the true plot line of the first film and novel, and give us a real glimpse of the hellish world the Cenobites come from. Agreed, man. Hold nothing back. Yeah. Show us what happens after the box takes us away, a la the Hellbound Heart. Most of all, it should also bring a flavor that makes it different from the rest, as nobody wants a clone, because only Barker can do Barker. Yeah. I eagerly await the results of this, because if done right, this could be a fantastic way to reintroduce Hellraiser into the modern era for new audiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see a positive voice on this, because there have been a lot of people saying, like, well, we already got Hellraiser, or one guy was like, oh, I think you mentioned that in our chat, right, that one guy was like, he ruined the Blade trilogy.
Oh, yeah, David S. Goyer, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always going to be people who are going to want to look at the bad side of it, but you know, a movie is a very collaborative experience. Producing a movie, having all these people come in and do special effects and ADR and lighting and, you know, stage dressing and art direction. And, you know, the director has to come with a vision. And I think with this talent involved, I'm pretty sure that they're going to do the best they can. So, yeah, who knows? This seems like a very positive move for the Hellraiser franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I think, honestly, at this point, it's not really possible to damage the Hellraiser franchise. You know what I mean? Because I mean, there have been so many terrible direct-to-video sequels. It's like, you know, what are people worried about?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I used to say just let Hellraiser take a rest and, you know, come back to it in 5-10 years. But it all depends on the budget. It all depends on the budget and the passion and the vision behind the project. Like if we could do the Scarlet Gospels tomorrow, you know, I'd be 100% behind it, you know. Just don't do any more of those contractually obligated sequels or, oh, it's all a dream, and then Pinhead's going to slash someone's head off. And, you know, it's like, these movies don't really.
Or preach at them for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it can be exciting on the surface to see, hey, there's a new Hellraiser. But then it's like, oh, okay, I was expecting something else or a little more. And Hellraiser is something that has to knock your socks off, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, and it's been a long, tough road for Hellraiser, you know, especially with the contractually obligated sequels, and
it's been a long, hard road out of hell.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get to hear more as this progresses. We've seen, you know, a movie that was released in 2018 that was supposed to be a sequel to Hellraiser, but it didn't. And then, you know, Hellraiser 3 came out, and it was supposed to be a sequel to Hellraiser 1. And, you know, I think with this talent involved, I'm pretty sure that they're going to do the best they can. So, yeah, who knows? This seems like a very positive move for the Hellraiser franchise.
Yeah.
Hellraiser ideas come and go. Look at the episodes where we discussed the first Duels of Blood series that we had, where we had Pyramid Gallery, Max Lichter join us, and we discussed all those treatments and scripts that were on the Weinstein desk. Some of them were just so terrible. We talked about some of those with our guests, and they were just terrible. And yeah, let's see. David S. Goyer is probably going to write something a little better than that. So, it's premature we can't say anything else because all we have is like 2 paragraphs of a press release saying that they're going to do it. So we really need to know a little more. But for now, I'm glad that the wheels are still spinning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope something fresh comes of it.
Fresh blood.
Yeah, and everybody's got their ideas of what they would want to see in a new Hellraiser movie, but we don't really get to choose. We just have to see what comes out and decide for ourselves if we like it or not.
Yep. So what's coming up next on the podcast?
So we will continue our commentary series next week on the chilling adventures of Sabrina. So we'll be talking about chapters 9 and 10. We will continue with the final round of the Duels of Blood after that to see who won between Rachel and Onaka.
Hint: it's going to be Onaka.
I know. and then we've got Aberrat, Days of Magic, Nights of War. We'll be discussing. So that's coming up in probably about a month or so. So nice. I keep saying, if you're out there and you wanna join in the discussion with us or whatever, start reading it now because that it's been a long time since that was published. So freshen it up a little bit.
Yeah. So you can, when Ryan talks about some obscure character in the book, you're going to be like, oh yes, the guy from page 54.
Right.
Yeah. Come thou glyph to me. Anyway, so exciting things coming up ahead, and thank you very much for listening to us. Subscribe to us on iTunes. You can listen to us on Spotify and Google Play, and we have an app. Yeah. Please go ahead and download our app.
Yeah, it's on.
Our app has an alarm clock. It's super useful.
Yeah, and it's on Android and iOS.
Yeah, and you can download the episodes to hear offline. You can do all sorts of cool stuff. And just use the app. It's in the Google Play Store, and it's also in the iTunes App Store.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news, features, reviews, and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and every other place you can find podcasts. Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial, podcast, and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.